We'll go ahead and get started with our media availabilities this morning at Pocono Raceway. We are now joined by Kyle Busch, driver of the number 18 M&M's Crispy Toyota. Kyle, 3 consecutive wins and 4 wins in the last 5 races. Tell us about your team's momentum coming to Pocono this weekend.
I'd say, is this thing on? All right. I'd say we're certainly doing the right things, and our momentum is certainly high at this point. And the guys have just done a phenomenal job, both at the shop, everyone there at Joe Gibbs Racing, and as well as here at the racetracks that we've been to. And I can't say enough about Adam Stevens, everybody on this team. They continue to fight, and each week, it seems like everything just continues to get better and better for us. So, we hopefully have that continue, not only through these next 6 weeks before the chase starts, but then into the final 10 weeks as well. So, I look forward to continuing on our chase march here, and then, once we get to Chicago, being able to capitalize on this hot summer to have a continuation of that into the chase.
We'll go ahead and open it up to questions. Please state your name and affiliation. And we'll start up here with Mike Kembry.
Mike Kembry, USA Today. What you're doing is beyond ridiculous. Where would you be if you weren't hurt? And I'm assuming you're still somewhat uncomfortable in the car, right?
Well, I don't know where we'd be if I wasn't hurt. I don't know if we would be. Obviously, I feel like we'd be in the chase, but I don't know whether or not we'd have 4 wins like we do, or we'd have none. I don't know. But the point of all of it is that with the injury and everything that I've gone through, and my family and my team has gone through this year, I think that we've all just kind of grown a little bit more together, and I think all those things have certainly helped. Through the times of adversity, you never really understand why the Lord put you through that plan, but honestly it could be for greater things down the road. And we obviously, when I was laying in my hospital bed in my living room, Samantha and I, we weren't sure what was going on. We didn't know why. We didn't know what the lesson was, but we may not still yet know, but certainly we're just going through these steps and these stages each day, and continuing to try to evolve. What was the second part?
You feel good in the car?
No, I feel good in the car. I'm fine there, truthfully, honestly. I feel like there's times when I get out of the car and just putting weight back through my feet, sometimes it hurts after race days, stuff like that. I imagine, this week, Monday didn't feel great, but then Tuesday was fine. Yesterday I walked around M&M's day, all around all day long, so I was fine there. With Watkins Glen coming up next week, that's going to be another hard one to get through. So that's going to be a tough challenge for myself and the left foot. But we'll make it, and I'm sure we'll be okay, just like Sonoma. And it'll be sore on Monday afterwards, and we'll continue to ice it and make it feel better.
All right, we'll go to Dustin and then to Chuck.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports, to your left.
Thanks.
Kyle, as a team owner, you've gone through ups and downs, and I know, you had the Xfinity program and were able to kind of merge that back into Joe Gibbs Racing. There was an opportunity there for you to come out with something out of it, as opposed to if things didn't go well and all of a sudden you're left with shop and equipment. How important is it in this time period for owners to be able to have, whether that's the F word or some other type of thing, where there's a value to what you have as opposed to property, and how much more pertinent is it getting to be that there get to be something like that in place?
Well, it's obviously a way bigger deal at the Sprint Cup Series level than it is maybe for the Xfinity or for the Truck Series levels, but just speaking of what ownership may be on the Sprint Cup Series level, obviously I think it would be a huge benefit if there was more attached to these car numbers, owners, whatever it might be. The only thing that's valuable is the contracts from sponsorships. When you have investors come in, or when you have people that come in that want to buy out another race team, essentially all they're buying out are those contracts. That's what they want. In order to try to figure out how they're going to be able to still maintain that race team, but yet maybe take a little off the top for themselves, But to be in a family-type organization with Joe Gibbs Racing, I'm fortunate to know that Joe Gibbs has made his money elsewhere, and he's got his family well taken care of on that regard, that he allows all that money strictly to go straight to the race teams and being able to get performance out of our cars and making sure that we have the best possible equipment out there on the racetrack every single week. I would say Roger Penske's the same way, Rick Hendricks obviously the same way, Richard Childress probably the same way. So, those owners obviously have been around for a long, long time, and when it is time for, whether they want to sell out or get out or whatever it might be, the only thing they got is equipment, which is 10 cents on the dollar, and land in buildings and shop equipment and everything else, which is 50 cents on the dollar. There's really nothing worth value besides those contracts from sponsors. Yeah, it's a tough business to be a car owner. You worry about all those people that work for you. There's certainly been some times at KBM where it has been really tough. Unfortunately, we did, kind of fizzle out the nationwide plan over there and put it back to Joe Gibbs Racing. But we did absorb those people back within the company. We then went to 4 truck teams, I think. So then, we had an opportunity there where we had to get rid of a couple or transition through that. But, some more of them actually went to go work for me at Joe Gibbs Racing on the Xfinity car or at my Cup car. So there's plenty of times where people move around all the time, but it's stressful, and there's no easy thing. There's nothing easy about being a car owner. There's no easy thing that you can put your finger on and say, oh yeah, this is going to be simple. We can do that. If anybody thinks that way, you're going to run 20th. No doubt about it. It's certainly a lot more challenging to be one of the best and run up front and run for wins.
Kyle, Chuck Dibbler with the Express Times in Lehigh Valley Live. I noticed in recent weeks the commentators comment on your spotter.
Okay.
Could you talk about what the role, how has it changed, and what's it like? And in particular, talk about your spotter, Tony. He's a Penn State graduate. He's, and we.
I didn't know he graduated.
I think he did. I think he used to teach school.
Okay.
So he must be a good guy, because I did too. But that's all right.
Yeah.
So could you talk in like your relationship with him, and like if he says something, do you have to? Is it automatic? You don't have time to argue.
Right. Spotters, they are very important in our business, and we rely on them probably a heck of a lot more than we probably should. Sometimes you trust those guys with everything, and that's when you have the spotter wrecks, because the driver didn't double check kind of where he was or what was going on, and the spotters, man, sometimes, look at here at Pocono, they're up on the tower there, and heck, it's 3/4 of a mile over to the backstretch, in turn 2, so and you put your life in those guys' hands sometimes. So Tony, though, he's been a huge asset to our team. He's been a great help. I've gone through a couple spotters years ago, and my dad being one of those. And the problem with my dad is he would watch my brother and I, so sometimes he was spotting for my brother while he was supposed to be spotting for me, and he's like, car outside, and I'm like, what? Like, where? So I asked him, I said, is there a car outside, Kurt? Oh, yeah. So he didn't work out too well. But no, he got me to where I am today, so he was a huge asset. But, other spotters I've had over the years, Dickerson, I've had Eddie DeHaan. Sometimes you really, really click with those guys, and other times you just, it's like, man, I'm just not getting quite the right information that I want, And Tony, his first year, he did really good. There were certainly things that I talked to him about that I needed help with, that I wanted differently. And he's always listened, and he's always done anything that I've ever asked of him. So, he does a great job. I think the cool thing about Tony sometimes is, he's starting to get into that wheelhouse where it's more of, he'll calm you down sometimes, or he'll pick you up sometimes. He'll tell you can do it. You need that cheerleader aspect sometimes. You can't overdo it, that's for sure. I hate overdoing of the cheerleading, so I let him know. But overall, I mean, it's just it's something that's worked, and he comes to me every year around chase time, and he's like, "Hey, are we?" He's kind of quiet. He's like, "Hey, are we okay? Are we gonna do this again next year?" And I'm like, "Dude, if I don't fire you, then you're gonna be on board. It's fine. Don't worry about it. You're not gonna lose a job."
Is he considered part of the team?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Tony, he's a huge part of the team, no doubt. Some weeks when we have two spotters, I have Frank Bolter, who used to spot for me too at Billy Ballou's. He'll help us out at Indy. Last week he was there, and then of course next week at Watkins Glen he'll be there too. So sometimes you have those double spotters as well that you still got to have a relationship with those people too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll go to the gentleman in the back and then Stu over to the right.
Zach Catanzaretti, Redmond's Racing to your left. We're here at Pocono. If you can describe this track in one word, what would that be and why?
I think it's self-described, tricky. It's certainly a different type of racetrack. It's got a lot of speed. It's very fast, and yet it's challenging as well. To be able to get the correct balance or the perfect balance in every single corner, you're not going to be able to do that. So the driver has to be able to manipulate himself and his setup in order to be able to get through these three distinct turns better than all the rest of the drivers. So I think that's kind of why you see sometimes a driver will hit on it in a particular year, and other times, you might not see that guy win here for another 4 or 5 years, and somebody else kind of hits on it. It's all dependent in this business because the sport, the cars, they change so much so fast that, coming here today, we're not even running something that we ran here the last time we were here, so you got to kind of move on and change with the times a little bit. So those guys that have sweeps at these places, it's pretty remarkable that they can do that just because of the fact of everything changing so much. So even though it's only a short month and a half since we've been here.
Hi, Stu Hood, I'm NASCAR.com. Not only have you won 3 in a row, but with 3 different rules packages. Could you talk about maybe that confidence that gives you as you look ahead to the chase now, as you start to look ahead? And you mentioned that Watkins Glen will be a challenge next week. What's the biggest challenge for you going forward to get into and then stay in the top 30?
Well, with the different aero packages, I actually was pretty excited about it. I kind of like change, and I feel like I'm the best at being able to adapt to it the fastest, before crew chiefs and engineers get too much of a understanding and a basis of what they've got to work on to make those packages better in order to get their drivers better or their cars better to be able to keep up with me. So I kind of like the change. The lower downforce at Kentucky, it was fun. It was definitely a lot harder than what the other mile and a halves have been this year. I hadn't run in a whole lot of them. But just from the driver's sense of what I got, the off-throttle time was a heck of a lot more. Everybody enjoyed it a lot. So we hope to continue on down that path. The higher drag package that we had last week, again, it was definitely different, and you were definitely able to gain time on the straightaways for sure. Sometimes not as much as if you were in a pack. Like if you were third of 5 cars, those 2 through 5, they would gain at kind of the same rate. You weren't really just going to pull out and pass that guy in front of you. So, but you had to use all that to your advantage. I felt like I was maybe one of the best in traffic. I felt like that was because we just had a really good car. But the thing we didn't like about last week was just the difference that you had from being by yourself in air through the corners to being in traffic in air going through the corners. The closer you got to that car in front of you, you just got looser and looser and looser. And yeah, I think the only thing that made that race worthwhile for us drivers to not wreck through the corners was the adjustable track bar. I heard guys going as much as 3 inches on that thing, just to be able to get through traffic. So crazy the way that all played out, but we had fun with it. I enjoyed it, and again, I actually wouldn't mind if we had that higher drag package here at Pocono. I think here would definitely be a place that you'd want to see it with these long straightaways, so that would certainly make for a really interesting race.
All right, we'll go to Reed and then Candace.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Do you feel like you've got a good shot this weekend to become the next member of the 4 in a row club?
I certainly hope so, no doubt. I've never won at Pocono Raceway, and I hope that's about to change. We've certainly had some good runs here over the years. Sometimes in the spring race, sometimes in the summer race, but overall, I feel like our team's really come a long ways, and I like where we're going and where we're at, and so I can just hope that we can continue out here this weekend and get ourselves a win and make it 4 in a row.
And we'll finish up with Candace.
Candace Smith, drafting the circuits. Kyle, we spoke in 2012 at Homestead, and I'd ask you what your simple joys were. I'm the human interest person, and it was a tough season for you, so you had, the season was over, and then you rallied and you said, well, Samantha, and we had a new home and everything. So if I were to ask you today, what are your simple joys, what would they be today, these years later after the injury, some perspective in your life?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, obviously, I think I'd say my son, just being able to have him come along and join us in this world through all the things that we had to go through in order to conceive, in order to have him. So that was a challenge, but yet it's certainly well worth it in the end. He's the joy of our lives right now, and he was already up this morning. He was laughing and he was smiling and just playing all morning long. So he's a really good baby. Just the other day, was it not last night, but the night before? He's 2 months old and he went from 9 to 7. So I can't ask for anything better than that. He's an awesome dude. So past that, of course, my wife. Just being able to have her and to have the both of them be able to travel the road with me each and every week. We're blessed to have that opportunity to have our motor home and to be here and share all that together. That's really fun. So we're not separated or have he's not allowed to go and whatever. It's good to have that we're together.
We appreciate your time, Kyle.
Thank you. You got it.
He looks just like you.
I know.
Oh my God! I can just when he's on the brickyard bricks and he doesn't.